Now, around the age of 18 years old, I decided to move to Nashville, Tennessee, and become a professional musician. I used to think to be a professional musician was just merely based off of how good someone was at an instrument. But my, was I wrong. Having a career as a professional musician has changed so much over the years and is not at all just about how good of a musician you are, but much more. So today I'm going to be sharing with you the strategies, secrets, and the ways I make money as a professional musician so you can too. Now, before we get into this, I have to warn you, this is going to be a lot of information. So I'm going to have the chapter markers set so you can go and navigate to wherever you want to go to and what you want to learn about. But just know that this is something you need to probably take some notes on and probably watch again if you're really wanting to get everything out of it. So what does it mean to be a full-time musician? Now, in the simplest terms, it just means that all your bills and income is made through music. Now, my rule of thumb is to have multiple streams of income. It's really hard, but not impossible to have one singular income from music. But the reason it's important to have multiple streams of income is that you have the ability to not be completely dependent on one source of income. For example, in 2020, a lot of us touring musicians had to find other ways of making money outside of music because our one dependent source of income was just playing gigs on the road, and we couldn't do that. Another reason is that as a musician, winter seasons can be a really tough time to make money because there's not a lot happening. By opening yourself up to other streams, when you get that extra time in the winter, you can have a place to use your time wisely. Now let's talk through some of the different categories of income you have access to as a musician. Live, studio, teaching, online. The way I'm going to do this is I'm going to define what each of these are, and then I'm going to show you how you can be successful at it. Now, live consists of concerts, which are like playing for an artist or band, tours, which is multiple concerts in a period of time, events, which is like wedding and corporate and private events and conferences, stuff like that, and church gigs, which is like Sunday services and special events and things like that. Now, some ways you could be successful at this, and this is the one you probably heard a million people say, which is network, but not in the way that you think. Networking to me is not about being like a cable where you can connect to something to get something out, but networking is creating a net to be able to catch you when you fall. Connections are ones that you have no feelings or care for. They are just a means to an end. And the same goes for if someone looks at you as a connection. But friends will be there for you when there's not many gigs, and they will be there to look out for you to help pick you up and be there when it gets hard. This may be controversial, but in my opinion, just connecting and becoming friends with someone who you don't even like to just get an opportunity out of them is not really networking. Now, I've been in the professional music industry for over 10 years, and anytime I've ever gotten a huge opportunity to play with a Grammy Award-winning artist or played some type of massive event, it was because of a friend who recommended me, not a connection. I've gotten a few small things from connections, but nothing ever really panned out. Making connections is not about finding people who can take you somewhere, but about finding people who will go with you everywhere. So in short, make friends, not connections. So now my next tip, go where musicians are. Finding opportunities for live gigs can be locationally driven as well, meaning that sometimes you have to be or live in an area where there are more opportunities for gigs to potentially play them. This doesn't mean that you have to leave where you are necessarily to find live gigs, but you need to become extremely influential in your local music scene. The main reason I would tell someone to relocate is determined by what level they're wanting to reach in music. If you're wanting to get to a high level in your music career, you need to be surrounded by people who are better than you. Sometimes relocating is not about gaining more opportunities, but about growing yourself. Because when you surround yourself with people that are better than you, naturally you will grow and understand what you actually want in music. So now, if you're not sure how to find musicians and make friends in your area, Here are a few ways. Use Facebook groups. Search them in your area and see if there's any music groups in your area. Search online for open mics and jams to go to, even if it's not local. Reach out to musicians on social media to grab coffee or to just hang out. Now, the next tip is become a person that people want to be around. One of the biggest things about playing live gigs or even tours is that the music is the smallest part of the job. Most of your time is spent hanging next to people who you are traveling with 85% of the time. So outside of just being good at the music, you have to be a person that people want to hang around outside of the music. Now, my next point is very vital. Become a musician with depth. Musicians with depth are invaluable to any artist. Depth means that you can go anywhere creatively with an artist at the drop of a hat. The way you get better at this is by practicing and growing yourself consistently as a musician, by practicing new concepts, learning new styles, different ways of playing, and definitely practicing improvisation. The key to this is to learn how to play way past the bare minimum of the genre or style that you are playing, so that what you are playing becomes so easy that you don't even have to think about it. Another part of this is saying yes to many gigs to gain experience in playing, because that experience is part of creating depth in your musical ability. Because when people hire professional musicians, they aren't just hiring for your talent, but for your depth. So now let's talk about the next source of income, which is studio income. Studio sessions are pretty much playing music without much travel. Studio sessions are great because if you are not one that wants to travel, you can play music while not having to go far. The one thing about studio sessions is that nowadays, with the technological advances, going to a physical studio is not as popular as it used to be. So to get in actual professional studio sessions on a consistent basis is a little bit harder to come by, unless you live in an area that has a pretty sizable studio scene. But if you don't, then the next type of session will be helpful for you. At-home sessions. At-home sessions are recording sessions that you do in the comfort of your own home. Now, this may seem very inviting, but without prior experience working with a producer or artist who could potentially send you songs to record on, this could be a little bit difficult to get started in. When getting into recording at home, you will need to make sure you have some basic recording gear to be able to record yourself, like an audio interface, recording software, and a decent computer. I say decent because up until a few months ago, I used a MacBook Pro 2012 as my main computer for everything I did. I just recently got a new one. So just find a way to optimize what you have if you don't have the money to get something better. If any of you are interested in getting some beginning equipment to record at home, I'll have all of my equipment recommendations in the description below. Now, here are some practical ways that you can be successful at studio sessions and at home sessions. First, gain experience on how to work with a producer and or artist. Say yes to recording sessions, even if you are not necessarily getting paid to get studio and recording experiences. Now, I'm not the biggest proponent for people working for free, but when it comes to getting more calls as a studio or remote session musician, experience is going to be your absolute best friend, because people are paying you for your experience just as much as your skill. So understanding genre and how to interpret what artists and producers want is extremely vital to be successful. Now, this next point has been so pivotal for me when it comes to getting more at-home sessions. Be realistic with deadlines. I've been recording at-home sessions for years now, and the one thing that has brought me more sessions than just my skill at the instrument is setting realistic and prompt deadlines. Just like most people in today's society, artists and producers want to get their songs done fast. But what I've learned over the years in making mistakes and also being on the other side as a producer is that it's just as important to have realistic deadlines than speed of recording. What I always strive to do is under-promise and over-deliver. I may be able to finish a track for someone the next day after they send it to me, but what I tell them is that I'll get it to them at the absolute latest in 3 days from now. then potentially send them the track the next day. And what this does is allow for you to have a safety period to make sure you can realistically meet that deadline if something comes up. I personally, have made this mistake so many times over the years where I say, oh, I can get this back to you tomorrow, no problem. And then some type of life moment happens where I get a flat tire or something takes longer than I planned on. And what happens is now I've overpromised and under-delivered, which is not what you want. All producers and artists just want to be able to trust you to do what you said within the time frame you gave them. If you can do this, people will always want to keep working with you. Now, my next point is going to sound super simple, but communicate and write notes. Knowing what a producer or artist wants is very crucial to playing what they want on their song. So don't be afraid to ask questions of what they want. If an artist can't explain it well enough for you to understand, then get them to show you a video clip or audio clip of what they're going for. Now, when recording in the studio and even at home, make sure to make notes of what the producer and artist wants so you don't have to waste time trying to figure it out. Now, lastly, just know that sometimes artists and producers are hiring you just for your sound and taste. If they don't give you anything to go off of, just do what you feel would be the best for the song and let them tell you if they want any changes. Now, my last point to be successful in the studio is to study the tone needed in different genres. Knowing multiple genres is very helpful to keep a fresh and musical take when recording on any song. Something that I've actively done over the years is make playlists of songs in different genres to learn and be inspired by. The key to this, though, is that I only add songs to the list that I like what the bass player is playing in each of these genres. When you do this, you start to develop your own unique take on these different genres, even if you aren't a fan of the genre. Now, the next stream of income is one that has helped me so much over the years, which is online. There are so many ways that musicians can make money online nowadays, but you just have to make smart decisions and work hard. You can get a job in literally every area of music online: live, studio, teaching, you name it. You just have to work on your skills outside of just being talented, but learning how to market yourself in the right ways. Now, when being a freelance musician, you have to think about your job as a business. Now, for example, if you have a job working somewhere, you usually have a time that you have to be at work and not be late usually. You have to do the work by a certain time or until a certain time. Then you have to go home, wake up the next morning and do the exact same thing the next day and the next day and the next day. This is a big misconception about doing music online. Just because you don't have to leave your home doesn't mean you don't have to be disciplined in your work. So learning to develop good boundaries with having set hours that you work, how much you market yourself or your business, meeting deadlines that you set, consistently getting better at your craft is so vital. Without these boundaries, it's extremely hard to be successful online. Now, if you're interested in making music online as a musician, I've made a list of some popular sites that you can sign up for to get started. They will all be linked in the description below for free. On my list, I've categorized them based on what type of gigs you are looking to get, like live, sessions, or teaching, or different things like that. I would highly suggest that you try one or two to start, but do a lot of research on how to be successful at the sites that you choose, because they are not all made equal. By learning about each platform you are on can be the difference between your success or failure on making an online career with music. So now another part of this is creating digital products. Something I've done and many of my friends have done is sold digital assets, which is basically like presets for pedals, video courses, song transcriptions, video tutorials, music products, etc. These types of products are really great because you spend the time to make them once and then you can sell them forever. But the hardest thing to do with this is to market them to make sales. The best way to do this, in my opinion, is to generate an online presence that gets you notoriety in a niche in music. That could be having a popular Instagram or popular YouTube channel or different things like that in a specific genre or style that you like playing. Now, some practical ways that you can be successful at getting gigs online is just like what I said, build an online presence. Having an online presence is very helpful when it comes to gaining more work online or making sales on products. A huge misconception that I hear all the time is that you have to have a big follower count to make sales on products, but that isn't true. Honestly, if you are hitting a very specific niche, you can actually generate a lot of sales with very few followers. If you're interested in this concept, check out this book called The Purple Cow Method by Seth Godin, where he talks through this concept even deeper. Now, having a good online presence where people can look you up easily and hear you play can sometimes be the extra bit of trust that's needed to make a purchase of your product or get you to play on a track. If you have a landing page or some type of website as well, it can be very helpful to legitimize you and your business and gain trust and notoriety online. Now, my next tip to be successful is to do research on who's successful on your platforms. When getting into the online world, you need to look at people who are highly rated and see what they are doing that is causing their success. One thing to always look out for is how much people are charging and the quality of what they're producing. Now, if you can produce great quality with a reasonable amount than what others are producing, especially on the site that you're using, then that could be what gets your foot in the door with getting more clients. Now, my next tip is market the genre you like playing. I've told this to many people over the years, but to get gigs in the styles you actually like to play, you have to post and showcase yourself playing those more than the genres you don't enjoy playing. Now, take this with a grain of salt. I would definitely get good and post multiple genres of you playing online, but in the end, you're showcasing what you want people to know you for. So make sure whatever it is that you are doing, you actually like doing it. Now, my last stream of income, which is one that most of you already probably know, teaching. Now, most of you already know about this stream of income as a musician, and most of you probably already do this, but there is a massive need for music teachers nowadays. I'm not saying you have to do this and if you don't like teaching, but this avenue of making income is highly sought after right now. Even if you do this temporarily or during the slow seasons of traveling, this can still be very, very financially worth it. If you're a good music teacher, you can almost name your price for lessons nowadays, but you just have to have some experience. The two types of lessons you should know about are in-person lessons and online lessons. In-person lessons is pretty much exactly what you think it is basically where you have a lesson face-to-face, which is the most traditional style of teaching. This type of teaching is really based on a local network of potential students because it's based off location. The main downside of in-person lessons is that you physically have to be at a location with a student. So if you're a musician that travels a lot, this could be kind of a hard thing to stay consistent at. But the one upside of this is that students or parents of students will be willing to pay more for this type of teaching, so the potential for higher pay per lesson increases quite a bit. Now, online lessons have become more popular in the past few years and has been my preferred way to teach students. I enjoy this way because I can be on the other side of the world and still stay consistent with my students. And just for clarification, I'm not currently taking on any new students right now, but I may be open to it in the future. When you teach online, you actually open yourself up to many more opportunities to get students from around the world versus just in your local area. This allows for you to potentially gain more students faster and have greater control of your schedule. Now, some ways you can be successful at this: learn how to communicate effectively. Teaching is a game in communication because most people are talented musicians, but just can't communicate what they are doing. If you can study ways to communicate better so that others understand you, you will definitely be a more effective teacher. A way you can do this is by making notes and studying other online teachers and how they communicate. But when you do this, Study those teachers that you actually like their style of teaching, because that will help you to develop your own unique style of teaching. Now, the next way to be successful at this is create good relationships with your students. Sometimes the most helpful thing you can do to help a student learn is to have a good relationship with them, so where they feel comfortable to learn from you. One of the things that was tough for me when I was growing up and I had a drum teacher years and years ago is that he was always so serious and never asked me about my life or cared about what I liked. So when you create a good vibe and mutual respect with your students, you get the best out of them because they respect you. And so you have to give respect to get respect. So make the learning environment fun anytime you're in a lesson. Now, my last point with being successful at this is to be open to working with kids. Now, if you're watching this and you're a music teacher, we all know that working with kids can be tough. But if you're open to teaching them, you can probably make pretty good if it's online or in person. Many parents are looking for music teachers to help their kids learn music and will be willing to pay just about any amount for that because they value their kids learning so much. Now, I'm not saying that you have to go and teach a whole bunch of 3 and 4-year-olds, but all I'm saying is to set an age limit that you would be willing to teach. Mine used to be 11 years old and up, because it was just easier to teach that age of student online. But find what age works for you, because it can be a way that you make a solid income as a musician. Now, I know this video was a lot of information, so please note that you need to go back and write notes, take time to go through each of these sections, look at all these different things, because honestly, I had a burden to put this out there for you guys because I get questions so many times from so many musicians about wanting to be full-time. I hope this video has encouraged you in some type of way to go and pursue what you feel like your passion or calling is when it comes to playing and being a full-time musician. So if you are trying to decide if you want to pursue a career in music, or if you're trying to find different ways to have more money in your music career, I really hope this video has helped you or impacted you in any type of way, because this is something that I went through a lot when I was, coming up as a professional musician. And so if you guys were impacted by this video or even have any more ways of making money for musicians, feel free to drop a comment in the comments section below. Also, if you want to support this channel, feel free to check out any of my affiliate links in the description below, to where if you make a purchase through any of these links, this channel will get a kickback so we can bring you more videos. Also, don't forget to check out my website, travisdykesmusic.com, where you can find merch like this, the resting bass face, and a lot of other items that will help support this channel as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time.